My name is Mark McAleer, and this is my presentation on Lough Macrory SSI in Tyrone, Northern Ireland. This is a site map of Lough Macrory SSI. Introduction. Lough Macrory is a mid-latitude lake with steep slopes on three sides and within 1 kilometre of the lake shore. It is designated as an SSI due to its aquatic flora and fauna. This is dependent on low levels of pollutants and low levels of plant nutrients. Peat substrate dominates the south and west shores of the lake in the form of a sheer peat face. Mixed substrates dominates the remaining shoreline with sand along the north shore and silts in the open water. This provides a range of habitats for a wide diversity of plants and animals. This type of lake is rare in Northern Ireland due to pollution. Flora. The north end of the lake is home to a tall reed canary grass with a shoreweed lawn extending down towards the water's edge. Quillwort and greater water moss in the deeper water with perfoliate pondweed in the western half of the loch. Beds of water lobelia are found on the shore. Curled and lesser pondweed are also found in this area of the lake, with shining pondweed and translucent stonewort in the deeper water. Intermediate water stonewort, alternate water milfoil, yellow water lily and water crowfoot are also found in the loch. Emergent vegetation includes common spikerush, bottle sage, water horsetail, wild angelica, bogbean, marsh bedstraw and rush species. These are located on the west and east shorelines. Semi-natural mixed and conifer woodlands surround much of the loch, with goat willow and common alder fringing the shore around most of the perimeter. All the plant communities depend on the SSI being kept in good condition so that these plant species can flourish. Policies. The Declaration of Area of Special Scientific Interest at Lough Macrory, County Tyrone, Article 28 of the Environment Order 2002, was produced to outline the impacts to the loch. It outlined many policies. The number one, any activity or operation which involves the damage or disturbance by any means of the surface and subsurface of the land, including ploughing, rotivating, harrowing, reclamation and extraction of minerals including sand, gravel and peat. This allows the natural vegetation to be left untouched so that natural vegetation and animals can flourish and the ecosystem remains in good condition. This will negatively affect farming in there, as land adjacent to the lake will have to be left untouched. Also, if any resources could be quarried from adjacent land, this will not be possible due to this policy, which could affect the economy available from quarrying. Overall, this policy allows the lake to remain in its natural state, which will positively impact the ASSI. The introduction of grazing. The introduction of grazing to the loch would greatly impact on the flora of the lake and therefore impact on its biodiversity. For this reason, this policy would positively impact the ASSI and keep the equilibrium present in this area. Number 3. The introduction of rolling, mowing or cutting. These practices would disturb the natural succession of vegetation at the lake, which would in turn affect the biodiversity of both plant life and animals in the area. This would have a low impact on the economy and humans, as the loch has very little land to offer in terms of agricultural use. Number 4. The application of manure, slurry or artificial fertilisers. The use of these products for agricultural use can cause eutrophication of manure or fertilisers into the water body by surface runoff. Eutrophication is the ecosystem response to the addition of artificial or natural substances such as nitrates and phosphates through fertilisers or sewage to an aquatic system. Eutrophication depletes levels of oxygen in the water and in turn affects fish and animal populations. This will affect agriculture, as farmers will have to either plan the use of fertilisers or slurry very carefully, as reduce the risk of runoff into the lake, or stop fertilisers in the area altogether. The application of herbicide, fungicides or other chemicals deployed to kill any form of wild plant other than plants listed as being noxious in the Noxious Weeds Order 1977. When pesticides enter the aquatic system, the environmental effects can be high. Disadvantages of pesticides include their toxicity to some humans, animals and useful plants, and the persistence of some of these chemicals in the environment. If pesticides are selected wisely, the pollution and effects of the use of pesticides can be avoided. This means that knowledge is paramount to avoiding the detrimental effects of pesticides. The release into the area of any plant or animal, except for the establishment practice of releasing salmoid species Animals include birds, mammals, fish, reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates. Plant includes seed, fruit, or spore. The reason for animals or plants not being introduced is that non-native species can have a negative impact on the current animals in the ecosystem. Invasive species can alter the food chain, which in turn can make species become extinct or their numbers to be greatly reduced. The policy to deter this will have positive impacts on the flora and fauna of the area and therefore allow an equilibrium to be kept. Alteration of natural or man-made features, the clearance of boulders or large stones, grading of rock faces, modification of watercourse and the water table or bankside vegetation. If any of these areas were to be altered, the flow into the lake and the volume of water in the lake could be affected. Also, if vegetation or boulders were removed, it could cause an increase in erosion of the banks, causing more sediment to be released into rivers and affecting water quality. For this reason, the policy protects the vegetation, water quality and water table to keep the lake at a steady level so that the area is not affected. The killing or taking of any wild animals except where such killing or taking is treated as an exception in Articles 5, 6, 11, 20, 21 and 22 of the Wildlife Order 1985. This protects any animals in the lake and its surrounding area which could be hunted or removed from the area, keeping the lake biodiverse. The following activities undertaken in a manner likely to damage or disturb the wildlife of the area: educational, recreational, research, exercise activities or exercising of animals. This is kept under control due to the paths around the lake which allow for minimal impact. Paths are between 5 to 10 metres away from the lake shore and this controls the impact people have. Animals have to be kept in leads at all times, which means that they won't enter the water and affect its composition or the animals in the area. Changes in game, waterfowl or fishery management or fishing or hunting practices. The changes in fishing, whether increased or decreased, could have detrimental effects on the food chain. At Lough Macrory there are fishing officers which will stop illegal fishing and also uphold the fishing season, which stops fishing during spawning season. If fishing was to increase, the population of fish could be endangered in the area and certain fish could become extinct. If fishing decreases, certain species lower in the food chain could be overkilled by the fish higher up and result in numbers decreasing. Overall, if the food chain is altered, it could have detrimental effects on overall biodiversity. In terms of hunting, the same processes exist and biodiversity will be affected. In conclusion, the possible impacts of any change to this vulnerable area would negatively affect the overall ecosystem. This ranges from simple things such as an increase in recreation activities such as walking and dog walking to larger impacts such as extreme changes in the lake such as removal of banks or changing tributaries. The people affected by these changes in policy would mainly be farmers and anglers. However, the general public have been slightly affected in minor ways. The public, however, benefit from the policies overall due to them having an environment of outstanding natural beauty to appreciate, and without these policies, the effects of people's action could severely damage this ecosystem. In my opinion, the site is very well managed and the public really seem to respect the policies and adhere to the guidelines very strictly. The pathways around the lake allow them to admire this beautiful area and also allows the flora and fauna to flourish. Overall, the conservation policies present more pros than cons, as the impact of humans is very minimal and most of them fit in with other laws towards farming which are already in place. To conclude, the conservation in this area allows the natural environment to be substantially protected. Thank you for listening.